Good evening and welcome to SnapShot. Tonight we will explore Airbus Albo's foreign policy failures from his latest 15-day globe-trotting tour. The first leg of Albo's tour was in the Pacific, where he failed to secure a much-hyped defence treaty with Vanuatu and Papua New Guinea. Instead, with the Papua New Guinea Prime Minister at the press conference where everyone was anticipating the treaty would be signed, instead a memorandum of understanding was signed instead. The Albanese government's scramble to secure defence and multilateral treaties with Pacific nations was triggered by the Solomon Islands signing a security pact with the People's Republic of China back in 2022. The Solomon Islands, by coincidence, were the hosts of this year's Pacific Islands Forum, which Albanese attended, well, squeezed in between his Vanuatu and Papua New Guinean visits. Then Anthony Albanese spent a week in New York City to attend the opening of the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly. Travelling with him were Foreign Minister Penny Wong, Climate Change Minister Chris Bowen, and Communications Minister Annika Wells, in support of Albanese's key global addresses to the United Nations. First, he spoke on Australian recognising a Palestinian state, then spoke about Australia being a climate action leader in the Indo-Pacific and spruiking his government's emissions reduction targets, which now include a 2035 target of 62 to 70% emissions reduction, even though it doesn't look like they're going to reach the 43% emissions reduction target by 2030. And of course, he spoke about net zero by 2050 and urged global multilateral action. He also advocated for other nations to adopt Australia's under-16 social media ban, which comes into effect on December 10. The Albanese government arranged for Emma Mason to address the Assembly, whose 15-year-old daughter Tilly died by suicide after being bullied on social media, to advocate for the under-16s ban. EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen was very receptive to it. Albanese was, by coincidence, advocating for things US President Donald Trump hates. Albo was left off the list of leaders Trump was to meet with at the United Nations in New York City. Donald Trump's last public encounter with an Australian was with ABC Four Corners reporter John Lyons, who asked him about his business activities while president, which left a bitter taste.
Is it appropriate, President Trump, that a president in office should be engaged in so much business activity?
Well, I'm really not. My kids are running the business.
Yes,
I'm here. You know what the activity, where are you from?
I'm from the Australian Broadcasting Corporation,
okay.
Four Corners program.
Well, the Australians, you're hurting Australia, right? In my opinion, you are hurting Australia very much right now. And they want to get along with me. You know, your leader is coming over to see me very soon. I'm going to tell him about you. You set a very bad tone.
Well,
go ahead, John.
Okay, when the UAE does a deal like
you can set a nicer
tone. When the UAE does a deal, what does it want in return?
Quiet.
Though Albo did manage to sneak in a selfie with Trump at the Lot New York Palace, although some thought it maybe was a wax figure of Donald Trump, or he just decided to take a selfie with some strange man who asked him for it there. But after that selfie was published on Albanese's Instagram account, it was announced that a White House meeting between Albo and Trump is scheduled for October 20. Remember that Trump cancelled on Albo at the last minute back at the G7 in June to deal with the Israel-Iran war breakout. 2 days after their selfie, Trump announced a 100% across-the-board tariff on pharmaceutical products, though in better news for Albo, the AUKUS US submarine purchases look secure following a review by US Under Secretary of Defense for Policy, Elbridge Colby. Albo's trip to the UK began with a progressive love-in at the Global Progress Action Summit in London, attended by United Kingdom Prime Minister Keir Starmer, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, and other left-wing heads of government, where they discussed, among other things, how to counter the rise of the far right.
When it comes to migration issues, one of the theme of our approach is you can be strong on borders without being weak on humanity. So we have strong border controls through Operation Sovereign Borders. We've continued, but at the same time, we've increased the number of asylum seekers who we take. We abolished temporary protection visas to give people that security to fully participate in society. People who'd been in Australia, some for more than a decade, they weren't going back anywhere, but to really emphasise that Australian values are there. I think there are attempts by some on the far right to own nationalism, and so it's a matter of not being nativist about it, but being proud of who we are and what we're achieving. And Australian society has the oldest continuous culture on earth in First Nations people, but we also are a multicultural society as well, who've welcomed people from all over the world. We're all either migrants or descendants of migrants, except for First Nations people. So we have a Prime Minister called Albanese and a Senate leader called Wong. And that's who we are as a modern society. And I think that is really important as well, that we're embracing who we are and being proud of it.
This was the same summit where Keir Starmer announced that he would be rolling out a mandatory digital ID called the Brit Card.
And that is why today I am announcing this government will make a new free-of-charge digital ID mandatory for the right to work by the end of this Parliament. Let me spell that out. You will not be able to work in the United Kingdom if you do not have digital ID. It's as simple as that.
Australia's digital ID, called My ID, is voluntary for now. After having lunch with King Charles at Balmoral in Scotland, Albanese travelled to Liverpool to address the UK Labour Party conference, which was a blatant act of foreign political campaigning for which he was roundly criticised. The Prime Minister's staff didn't travel with him to Liverpool for the conference because it was political campaigning, but we don't know whether Albanese charged the Australian taxpayer for his travel. Albo defended himself attending the conference by saying that he met with Conservative opposition leader Kemi Badenoch, but he did not meet with Reform Party leader Nigel Farage, despite Reform leading both Labor and the Conservatives in the polls. The last leg of Airbus Albo's travels was in the United Arab Emirates, where his most significant statement was in support of an Indian owned Lulu supermarket establishing stores in Australia to increase competition in the supermarket industry.
Have you actually formally asked Lulu to establish itself as a competitor in Australia?
Yes, I certainly have. We need more competition in the Australian supermarket sector.
Those comments on the Prime Minister's final day of his international tour. Political editor Mark Riley is in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, it's deal done for Anthony Albanese here in the Arab Emirates. The UAE free trade agreement set to begin tomorrow. That's covering $12 billion in two-way trade. The Prime Minister visiting a hypermarket here in Abu Dhabi run by Lulu, carrying a wide range of Australian items from Vegemite and cheeses to meat and fruit and vegetables. Much of it, interestingly, selling for lower prices here than at home.
Please look at that.
Anthony Albanese heralding the deal as a boost for the Australian economy.
Albo hopes Lulu are a Salulu. Albanese is now finally back in Australia, though not for long. After his White House visit on October 20, there is still then the ASEAN Summit in Laos, the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, or CHOGM, in Samoa. Then there is the G20 in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and then APEC in Lima, Peru. Though Albanese is currently dealing with a potential foreign and economic crisis with the People's Republic of China, reports have said they have instructed their iron ore companies not to buy from Australian mining company BHP. Albanese said he won't get involved in this dispute at this stage, despite, of course, him saying that his government now has a great relationship with the People's Republic of China and, of course, his massive tour of China with panda diplomacy. Albanese has also taken partial credit for President Trump's 20-point Gaza peace plan, claiming Australia, France, Canada, and the United Kingdom's recognition of a state of Palestine nudged the United States and Israel into action. Though Albanese did finish the day with some good news. After his humiliation in Papua New Guinea, the cabinet has signed off on the Defence Security Pact. So there's going to be a take two signing with the Papuan Prime Minister, James Marape. Stay with us as we will continue to cover Airbus Albo's next foreign adventures. I'm Tim Wilms, and that's Snapshot. Lions are 2025 premiers. Keep Mad Monday and go Storm this Sunday. Good night.